Today on MTG Unpacked, we're taking a look at the new Elves versus Inventors Duel Decks. And with me I have Nissa representing the Elves and Tezzeret. Well, it's a bit of a stretch, but let's call him an Inventor. And let's see what we have here. So we get Azuri, Renegade Leader, and a Goblin Welder. Goblin Artificer, so I guess that's how they're representing Inventors. And on the back, Woodland Warriors versus Ingenious Machinists. Gather a massive clan of elves bent on demolishing all mechanical threats, or assemble a squad of inventors dedicated to unleashing the potential of destructive gadgets. Grab a friend and battle with these ready to play decks. So we get two 60 card decks, 10 tokens, 2 deck boxes, strategy, insert, quick reference card, and 2 spin down counters. Alright, so let's get stuck into this. I've actually been looking forward to this for a while. I don't know that it's going to be quite as good as the Merfolk versus Goblins that we had last year. Really enjoyed that one, but I am a Goblin fan, so that is fairly explainable there. What do we get here? So here is a big poster listing of all the different cards and sets they came from. Okay, and Inventors. And on the back, Elves versus Inventors. Alright, so let's get stuck into this. I like these deck boxes they have here. Fairly compact. So we've got one for the Inventors and one for the Elves. And we get a green spin down and a flecked black and grey for the Inventors. Okay, so let's take a look at our foil cards here. Nice foiling on that. Azuri, Renegade Leader. He's a legendary creature, Elf Warrior, 2/2 for 3 mana. You can pay a forest, regenerate another target elf. And for 2 and 3 forests, elf creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. Alright. So some nice elf synergies going on there. And for the Inventors, we have a Goblin Welder, creature Goblin Artificer, 1/1 for a single mountain. You can tap, choose a target artifact the player controls and target artifact card in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal, as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. Alright, so he can bring your artifacts back from the graveyard as long as there's no other effects going on. Okay, so these are our sealed decks, and I like notice they've got the new legendary frames on there. What do people think of that? Is that something you think is cool or tacky? I actually think it looks pretty decent. I think they're doing a lot of that in the new forthcoming Dominaria set. Okay, let's dig in. See if we can. So let's look at our mana base. So we start off a bunch of different forests. Ton of different forests. So this is looking like a mono green. Okay, so that's our basics. And what else? We get a Tranquil Thicket, a couple of those, Treetop Village. Okay, and that was, yeah, that's probably the end of the mana base. So let's go through the deck proper. Okay, we get a Dwynen Giltleaf Dian. So this is a legendary creature, elf warrior, 3/4 for 4 mana with reach. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever it attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking elf you control. And then we move on to the non-legendaries. So Elvish Archdruid, Gladeheart Cavalry, Regal Force. What is that? Thought it was like a big toad or something. Oh, elemental. Alright, fair enough. Sylvan Advocate, a couple of those. Talara's Battalion, Yeva Nature's Herald, and a land. So this is Oran Reef the Vastwood. Put that in our land pile. I don't know why they didn't group those together. Elvish Aberration, Elvish Branchbender, Fierce Empath, Elvish Mystic, a couple of those, Elvish Vanguard, Azuri's Archers, and I'm noticing there's a lot of one-ofs here. I would have thought they'd put a few more play sets of some of them, but maybe we'll get to those in a minute. Azuri's Archers, a couple of those, Elvish Branchbender. Okay, so they're not sorted that well. Ivy Lane Denizen, a couple of those guys. Crowsand Tusker, Boar Beast, Kuja Seed Sculptor, Leaf Gilder, couple of those. Lanoir Empath, Wild Heart Invoker, and Dwynen's Elite. So we've got 2 of those. Jagged Scar Archers, a couple of those. Viridian Shaman, Lead the Stampede, Naturalize, for getting rid of your artifacts or enchantments, that makes sense. Nature's Way, couple of these, Nissa's Judgment, and a Mirror token. So these are token artifact creatures. I'm not sure what they are doing in the elf part of the deck. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, and a single elf warrior token creature. Would have thought they'd have. Oh, you know what, they're probably in the other pack, so we'll get a load of that in a minute. Okay, so that was the Elves. Let's crack into this one, see what the Inventors have for us. So we start off a bunch of islands. Okay, so islands, mountains. Ooh, so artifact lands. Let's take a look at those. We have the Great Furnace, artifact land, Seat of the Synod, Swiftwater Cliffs, a couple of those. Darksteel Citadel, another artifact land, indestructible. Foundry of the Consoles. So what is this one? You can pay 5 and tap, sacrifice it, create 2 1/1 color stop to artifact creature tokens with flying. Phyrexia's Core, sacrifice an artifact, you gain a life. Okay, and then we're moving on to the rest of the deck. So that was our lands. We get a couple of artifact lands that will be interesting. Okay, so our legendary creature, Human Artificer, Pia and Kiran Nalar. So they're 2/2 for 4 mana. When Pia and Kiran Nalar enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 color stop to artifact creature tokens with flying, pay 2 in a mountain, sacrifice an artifact, and they deal 2 damage to any target. Oh, so we get 2 of those. I think, didn't we only get 1 of the other legendary? Okay, dark steel plate, that's pretty good. Mere battle sphere. And I must say I'm already impressed by the artificers. Scuttling Doom Engine. Solemn Simulacrum. Thopter Assembly. Temple of Epiphany. So we're getting some of our non-basic lands here. Shivan Reef. Ethereum Sculptor. Girapur what's that? I didn't say Gatecrafter. Gearcrafter. Fairy Mechanist. A couple of those. Trinket Mage. Riddlesmith. Treasure Mage. Trophy Mage. Used that one before, I think, in my Godfather's gift deck. Comes in pretty handy. Whirler Rogue. Ethereum Sculptor again. Whoa, Barrage Ogre. Don't know how that qualifies as an inventor. I think they were just putting in some filler there. Maverick Thopterist. Reclusive Artificer. Ichor Wellspring. And that's supposed to be an artifact. Okay. Couple of those. Inventors Goggles. Mycosynth Wellspring. Couple of those. Mere Sire. So this is a Mere. Nurok Replica. Pyrite Spellbomb. Filigree Familiar. I recognise that chap as well from my, I think it was also my Godfather's gift deck. I had some of those. Voyager Staff. Artificer's Epiphany. Galvanic Blast. A couple of those. Welding Sparks. Shrapnel Blast. And we move on to the Thopters. So we get, oh, it's different. Yeah, a couple of the same there. So one elf token, tons of Thopters, and what was that other, there was, I think something, where was it? Yeah, Mere tokens, so not sure what's up with that. So just my initial impressions, I definitely think the artificers or the inventors have cooler cards. Let me know in the comments what you think. The elf side of things, I have heard that it's not quite as strong as the inventor side of things. So you could have some lopsided matches there. It sounds like the elves, they could have put some stronger cards in. There's a lot of one-ofs. And I'm not the biggest elf fan to begin with, so I'm not that familiar with what are the cool elf cards, but one thing I will say, I do like this legendary bordering on here. And it's also odd that you get a single elf warrior token and a bunch of Meres, so not sure what's happening there. I would have thought you would have lots of elf tokens required. So that is Elves versus Inventors. This is actually the end of the dual decks, which is a bit disappointing. I thought they were a decent idea for casual play. Not always the best matchups between the two decks, but I thought the Merfolk versus Goblins was pretty good. Leave a note in the comments if there's a dual deck from the past that you thought was actually pretty evenly matched and fun to play. There's probably a lot better ones than this, but if you are feeling nostalgic for the dual decks, you want to pick up this last one, it's probably worth picking that up. I'm not sure. You're probably better off actually picking up an older one if you can get it for cheap. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button for more Magic the Gathering unboxings and tap the notification bell to be notified as soon as new videos are released, and have a great day.